Didn't the other kids tell you not to come here? Go back before it's too late!
At the heart of horror, there has always been more than spooks and scares.
Sometimes, it's not what you see, but what you hear.
Welcome to Sound Scary.
Each week, we talk to the artists,
The musicians,
the fans, the people who haunt the shadowy corners of your mind.
join us as we delve into the deepest
Darkest.
and most unforgettable earscapes.
Welcome
To Sound Scary.
Welcome back to another episode of Sound Scary Quarantine Edition. I am your host, Ryan Cultrera.
And I am James Oster, and I'm really excited about today's guest because it's somebody who I've known for a while, and he's not only is he really just an amazing guy, he's just a really cool dude. He's also incredibly talented. He's a talented actor. He's a talented musician. He's just cool, and he can cook. My God. Jake Abel, dude, thank you for coming to Sound Scary.
Hey,
Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thank you.
Well,
This is
you
great.
know, first thing I gotta say is, when I was thinking about bringing you on, you haven't done a lot of horror, but my God, you are like geek-centric. Like, you've done Stephanie Meyer's movies, you've done Percy Jackson, you've done Supernatural, you've done all these kind of heavy geek-centric, iconic, films.
Yeah.
How has that been for your career? Has it been a helpful thing, or has it been more hindrance?
It definitely hasn't been a hindrance. I mean, it's so surprise. Each one has been a surprise. Going back to Supernatural, I think that was the third season of the show, and I had no idea that it would eventually take me all over the world to conventions in Rome and London and New Zealand. So it's been incredible, and even I was on a family vacation in Italy 2 or 3 years ago, and even there, people that were working at the restaurants recognized me. There was a local pizza shop, where the guy, I think it was either Supernatural or Percy, and he recognized me and this in Florence, and it'd be we would go see him every day, and he would give us limoncello, and I cooked pizza in his restaurant, in his oven. Yeah, I mean, it was so no, it has not been a hindrance at all. It's been wonderful, and the fan bases are so great for Supernatural and for Percy Jackson. It's not like some of the other fandoms that can be pretty brutal at times. I haven't ever experienced that, so it's been really, really great. And then speaking of horror films too, I just did my first real horror film with James Wan, called Malignant.
Yeah.
And we filmed that last year, and it was supposed to come out sometime this year, but now they've pushed it back because of everything. But I'm so excited because it is my first real horror film, and it's hard to talk about because I can't give anything away, obviously.
Yeah.
But my bit is real cool. And the whole movie is practical effects.
Mm-hmm.
James wanted to go back to doing practical effects. No, maybe he's using very little CG effects, but most of it is refrigerator doors opening by themselves and cool things that are just make your skin kind of crawl, right? So yeah, I'm it was great. I felt like I was finally getting into the horror world.
Well, to work with someone like James Wan, who is, honestly another one of the nicest guys in the world, but also one of the best directors working in genre. Period.
Oh, big fan, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he before I started working with him, for like weeks, I just kept hearing the same thing. He is so nice. He is so nice. My next door neighbor had come out, and I was walking my dog, and he stopped me, and he was like, "Hey, I just read you're doing James Wan's new film." I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Nicest guy in the world. I was at a party up in the hills, and he was up there and was so sweet. You're gonna love him." Like nonstop. So like my expectations for James were very, very big because everyone had such great things to say about him, and they were absolutely right. Like he's such a joy to work for. His energy, his like, creative capacity. I mean, the things he comes up with were so amazing, and especially because it was practical effects. The things that were happening in camera, like there's one bit that happens with me, and the camera trick is live happening in the camera because this really unique thing that they did. And when the movie comes out, I'll tell you how they did it. When I watched playback, I could not believe how cool it looked. And it was like, anyone could have done it.
Yeah.
Right? Like anyone could have put that together, student film, and made something that looked this cool if they just had the creativity to do it. The only difference is James had millions of dollars and he built a functioning house, 2-story house inside of a soundstage. This massive thing. And at first he wanted one of the windows to be able to have rain come down on it. And then he decided, you know what? All of the windows should be able to rain. So they gave him like $2 million more to outfit all of these windows inside the soundstage so that if he decided, you know what, it should be raining in the scene, they could turn it on and rain would trickle down. I mean, it is wild.
That is so cool.
Oh my god! Well,
It's so cool. Yeah.
and I'll give you an example, Jake, because I happened to be on the set of Conjuring 2 at one point, and you guys both remember the scene where all the crosses turn upside down.
Oh sure, yeah.
Yeah.
That was practical. That actually happened. We saw it happen.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
And
terrifying.
it makes such a difference. Like in my opinion, like horror films, I feel like I want horror films to feel like they were handcrafted.
Yeah.
When you know there's a giant budget behind it and they can rely on CGI, it takes away like the spirit of what it means to like get together with friends and make something that makes other people shit their pants. And the best way to do that is to have like limited budget and a ton of creativity and a ton of people that are in it with you that can figure out, okay, how can we turn 100 crosses upside down at once? Like that's so much scarier than like any big budget thing.
I agree.
For sure.
I
And with
agree.
this being your first horror film, did you find that you had to do any sort of specific preparation to kind of make that shift into the genre? Like, what was your process as an actor like?
You know, it really wasn't that different because, at least for me, I felt like I'm really drawn to horror films and genre films that are led by the characters, right? That's like people over plot that really focuses on, like, I feel like Hereditary was that way. I feel like The Witch, another one of my favorite horror films, was that way. Like, it was really about the people and their experience. And my character, he was an abusive husband, and there was, I just like, it felt very like these were two real people who were struggling to conceive. That was like that's like their big stories. They're struggling to conceive, and he's abusive about it. And so I knew that like James would be really focused on the cinematic aspect of it. So I tried to bring in, like I usually do, as much character stuff as possible, just to sort of lay it at his feet and say, what do you think will work here? Like, he wanted me on the bed for one scene, right? I'm like, I'm just coming home from work. I really, like, I have my boots on, so I'm putting that together. Like, okay, I probably just came home from work. I know he fixes like air conditionings for a living. He's like an HVAC guy. So okay, he's in his boots. He just came home from work. So how do I make this realistic? Well, the guy's not just going to be lying in bed. I was like, let me just have my cell phone, and I'll be like on my cell phone because that's what normal people do. And it played well because he had a line where like the TV's blaring, and she comments on it, and he's like, yeah, I'm watching it. He's clearly not. So I was trying to find ways to like layer these really human elements that were already there, and he would just go with them, and then yeah. So it wasn't really much different than I normally work to try to bring a character forward. Just scary shit happens to them at this time.
Wow. So
Yeah.
I've got to say, you're playing an abusive husband. Wow, you never play villains. What do you mean? What's going on with that?
I said one of my favorite stories was Kevin Durant. I did a film called I'm Number 4 with him. He's the big, tall actor who, he's fantastic. And I was telling him back then even, I was like, because he plays a lot of bad guys. I was like, I've got to save a cat from a tree at some point. Like, I got to be the hero. And he was like, look, man, someday they're going to let you be the good guy. And then they're only going to let you be the good guy. And then you're going to be begging to be the bad guy because the good guy's so damn boring. And I think there was some wisdom. To that. But I kind of find that's true. Maybe James and Ryan, maybe you guys find that true. Like, a lot of the nicest people I've met in the industry play the worst people on screen. And the people who are nicest on screen generally tend to be the worst people.
Yeah, that tracks.
In my experience.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
Well, I think with horror,
there's always outliers, but
For sure, yeah.
No, you talk to Kane Hodder, you talk to any of these guys that play. I was able to interview Gunnar Hansen at one point, who played Leatherface. They were the sweetest, most gentle, most sweetest people in the world, and
especially actors who play creatures and monsters.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially them, and I think it's because their job is to understand the psychology of a creature and a monster, right? Because we all think we're the protagonists of our own story, right? So these creatures and monsters think they're the protagonists of their own story. So I feel like probably just through the practice of being like, well, you might cut people's face off and wear it, but he's not a bad guy.
Yeah.
He's not without reasons.
Yeah.
That's my hypothesis.
Well, not all monsters and serial killers are bad people. It's just the few that really make them all look bad.
Sure.
There's a few outliers.
Now, speaking of horror, what were some of your influences growing up? Did you have any favorite horror movies that made an impact on you?
One that negative impacts because I have an older brother.
Sure.
And and I remember one of the first scary movies I really wanted to watch. I would get so brave around Halloween, right up until Halloween. And then I'd be like, I want to go to a haunted house and I want to watch scary movies. And then I would go to the haunted house and regret it, just completely regret it. And I didn't want anything to do with it. But now, haunted houses are my favorite thing. I laugh. A really good one I find so scary if it makes me laugh. It's great. But I didn't have that as a kid. I was terrified. And my brother said, okay, you're going to sleep in my room and we're going to watch Child's Play. We're going to watch the first Child's Play. And I was like, great. I know all about Chucky. And then of course, I had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. And I was just convinced that my mom had this little doll that was down in the foyer. And I could see it from the second floor. And I was just convinced that Chucky was down there, and I definitely did not sleep for a week after that. But growing up in semi-rural Ohio, you oftentimes feel like you're living in a horror film, and so I feel that probably influenced me more because you'll drive down a back road and be convinced that someone's gonna just step out into the middle of the road with a chainsaw, and that's it for you because it's creepy. So my real life influenced my feelings towards horror.
Oh, I get that. I'm from small town Maine, and same deal.
Yeah, you back roads, and you're like,
yeah,
gives you the chills, and you're like, you'll probably be fine, but maybe Maine's like this, but there's definitely places in Ohio where you can feel stuff went down here.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
You can't prove it, but you're just ugh, there's a shack back there just beyond the wood line, and bad things happened there.
Oh yeah.
And I would love to tell a horror story. I would love to direct a horror story that feels like that, that captures that feeling that you can know if you like live there, and then try to figure out how to do that cinematically through the camera and through production design, because it is like for kids that grew up in those areas, and they're all over the US, like we all know it. We all know that pit in our stomach of like what it feels like to be on, like, you know, everyone has a crybaby bridge or something in their hometown that just like feels bad. And to capture that on film is a challenge.
I think, we even had, like, I grew up in Utah, and we had, like, this one house where I was convinced it was either haunted or there was a chainsaw family there. I think we all have those places, no matter where. Even in LA, you have those.
Sure.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere, for sure. I just feel like if you're living in, like, Los Angeles or Manhattan or Chicago, you know, like a big city, probably less, but most of America isn't big cities. So yeah, we all have it. And, like, I just wonder if it feels the same. You know, it's almost like there's a theory that we can't prove that, like, what green looks like to me, it looks the same to you. Like, everything, like, our experience is subjective, and we have no real way of proving it. Like, I know it's very deep for just talking about the heebie-jeebies, but I wonder if, like, your experience in Utah is, like, the same as my experience in Ohio and Ryan's experience in Maine, you know? Just, like, that same, it has to be. Yours is just a little more desert, and ours is a little more green, or, like, barren trees, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. It varies by your locale, and I'm sure there's LA ones. Like, you know, for future people watching this, tell us if there's any good LA ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if you live in creepy LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Potential locations for filming, man. There's got to be something.
There we go.
Well, Ryan and I have done a few ghost hunts in the area, and it's like you would be shocked at how many places in LA are just like, wow, we've had weird stuff happen. It's very creepy. We should take you on one.
Okay.
If you're up for it.
We'll do it. Okay,
I'll
we'll
go.
do it. Once this COVID stuff is over, you're coming with us.
Yeah.
Actually,
okay. It gives me the tingles just thinking about it. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I get tingly, like
nice.
The tingles of regret.
It's okay. You're with us.
Yes, we're
professionals.
Experienced.
That's right.
Yeah, we're professionals.
It's a Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd thing we got going. You can figure out who's who.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get back a little bit to your experience with Supernatural, because I feel like that is one of those shows, and you know, we've had Chad Lindbergh on the show, and he's a good friend of mine, and it just seems like everyone from the Supernatural community is just so lovely, just such a nice group of people, and I'm talking about the actors, and as well as the fan base. What do you think made that show so special and made it so important to fans?
I think you nailed it with the word community. There's the fandom community that that travels the U.S. to go to conventions all year long, that save up to go to conventions and see each other there, and but there's also the community on the set, and it's not just the actors, it's also the crew as well. Like when I did season 3 and an episode of season 5, or a couple episodes in season 5, and then I was gone for like 10 years or something crazy. And so when I went back to do this last season, I was shocked to see a lot of the same crew, which like doesn't happen for 15 years. Like you know, you have the same prop master, and you have like the same ADs coming through. Yeah, like they just stuck around, and it was like so Eric Kripke, from what I've been told, is the show was only mapped out for 5 seasons. That's kind of what they had in mind. It was going to be a 5-season show, and they're going to wrap it up. And then 5th season came around, and they all kind of looked around and were like, we like enjoy this. This is fun, right? What are we going to do? Like, where are we going to go after this? Like, that's so unknown. We love this. Why not go for a couple more? And then a couple more turned into a couple more, into a couple more. And they just kept going because they really liked spending time together. And I gotta tell you, it's so rare to have a show that started out with young people and have them be that nice. Because a lot of shows, from friends that are on different network shows that have a lot of young people on them, the experience is not so good. And it's because, and a lot of times it's because you have young people who haven't been through the trials and haven't suffered the long arc of the industry. And so I'm a firm believer that every set is led by the number 1 and number 2 on the call sheet, right? And Jared and Jensen and Misha as number 3 as well are fantastic leaders. They set the tone. They set a good tone, and people have a good time. And then I think that sort of just gravitated. It was like a gravitational pull that pulled all these different kinds of people. I know, like one of the actresses, Sam, she got diagnosed with cancer again recently. She played my mom on the show, actually. And so they all got together and we did a fundraiser for her, like privately. And then a couple of days before her first surgery, they organized this whole thing where there was like 60 of us or something on Zoom together with her. Like, what show, what community in this industry or any other like has that kind of like faith and love in each other? I was blown away, and it wasn't even for me. So they're special, man.
Wow.
Special group. Yeah, I'm very lucky to be a part of it.
That's really good to hear.
It is good to hear.
Yeah.
Well, it also it shows that there, the fan love that you guys get. And you also, I think earlier you mentioned this, and I think it's absolutely true with certain fan bases you have like, oh, fuck that guy, fuck that they made this movie, fuck that they did this, but there's none of that with there's kind of an absolute love, and just they take it seriously and they're so into it. And I think that's beautiful, man.
They still have opinions.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean they're not opinionated.
Oh yeah, you got it.
but they're not like brutal or vindictive about it. It's all very there's still love at the bottom of their opinion as well. Especially for someone like me who came in and played the third brother. Like that was like it's a big deal because they're such icons of that family. And I was lucky I was accepted. Really lucky.
Well, here's the thing about you, man. The thing that I've always been impressed with you is you're a very committed actor, but you're also very kind, and you're also you've got and not to blow too much smoke, you've got an incredible heart. And I think that I don't know, it just seems like that's kind of what it is rare to see that. Is it not only a fan base, but critical and everything and cast. It is rare to see that kind of love with a show, to be honest.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I really do. I think like I don't know. It's just life's short, and there's a lot that like I want to do in it, and like being kind to people is kind of top priority because like it's. We all go through life, ups and downs, and we learn things or we don't. I try to learn things fast and not make mistakes again. That's sort of my general outlook. I think I've found that life is more enjoyable when people are nice. So you gotta practice what you preach, I guess.
Yeah, I agree.
There's one person out there that like met me on like a bad day and is like, that dude's a dick.
Like, we can't all have 100% good days, though.
No.
Like think about think about that though. Like it's like people kind of love like anyone who meets like a celebrity loves having their like, oh, he was so nice, or it's like, oh, he sucks so much, he sucks balls, and that's his personality. And I don't care, you can't change it.
I mean, I'm just meeting you today, but you seem cool.
Yeah,
I'm having a good day, Ryan.
All right.
I don't think you've ever. I can't imagine. Look, but you're right though. We all kind of see and I've gotten to a point where it's like you see someone's bad personality, and I always try to keep that in mind that they may be having a bad day. They may be I got to interview an actor who has a real bad reputation as being a very difficult actor to interview, and it was. I just approached him as a human being, and I said, "Hey, this meant something to me because of this," and it was one of the best experiences I've had. Amazing human being.
Oh yeah,
simple as that.
Yeah. I imagine you guys experience that a lot, interviewing multiple people. Like I work with people, which is one thing, and I have my work experiences.
Yeah.
But doing press is a whole other animal,
Mm-hmm.
and it can bring out different things in different people. It can bring out like the best and the worst people because they know they have to put on the show, or it's like the opposite. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, without calling out any names, like the one person I've been super scared to talk to is like this really famously gruff, constant asshole, like Bostonian director, no names, And so I was terrified to talk to him. And I walk in, he's like, "Hey, I made you a cinnamon cappuccino. I hope you're cool with that." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And it like turned out to be super nice.
Wine me and dine me, huh?
Yeah,
Right.
like this is not what I expected at all. It was like the super nicest person. But yeah, you never know.
He's like I need a nice article. Here's a coffee. Say something nice about me. Write something nice.
Oh, trust me, I've seen
My
other
publicist
things
is
with him.
pissed.
He doesn't give a crap.
Yeah. No, and honestly, we've been lucky with this show. We've gotten to talk to, I think, literally every guest we've had on the show has been amazing. And
We've really lucked out.
Yeah, and I think it's also because we approach the show a little differently, and we want people to be comfortable and have a good time, have a conversation, and not feel kind of like, ooh, I'm trying to get... So Jake, tell us all about the new James Wan movie. Tell us all about it. We don't do that.
As badly as I want to grill you about it, I know you can't. I know.
We'll have to do a follow-up when it comes out because
Please.
like it was to do a practical effect film is it's awesome.
Well,
like,
I'm good.
'cause,
Yeah.
Like, what can I tell you about CGI? Like, well, I did this thing, and then they put all the cool shit in later. It's like, no, all the cool shit happened in real time, which, like, for me, performing it made it incredibly real and elevated it. Like, I can't tell you, like, there was some stuff that was just like, I cannot believe we're doing this for real, and it's looking like this, and it's working so well. I mean, yeah, it was just like it makes you feel like young again, like falling in love with film, what it can do, what you can pull out of it using creativity. Like when I was a kid, I taught myself stop motion animation on my parents' video camera without knowing how. I just realized I was like, if I hit, it didn't even have like a we could do a single shutter. It was just one way to hit record and stop. And so I found out if I did that and then moved like my animals and stuff around, then it would, like, once I played it back, that it would make motion, right? And it's like that kind of re-sparking that creativity that we all had in our youth when we loved film, and we're like, how did they do that?
Yeah.
I want to go get my camera, get my friends, and figure out how they did that. It took me back there and kind of reignites that fire of what film can be.
Dude, when are you directing a film? Seriously.
I can't tell you how, like, I'm in like physical pain. I need to create something so badly. I have like I'm writing 6 screenplays in my head at once, which is nauseating because I can't figure out. I'm beating them into submission to figure out. Actually, no, it's the opposite. I'm allowing them to come to me. They're fighting for space.
Yeah.
But like I'm so desperate to create something. I'm having breakfast with a cinematographer who I loved, who I did a film with last year as well, and he's the most like artistically driven DP I've ever worked with. That isn't Robert Yeoman, right?
Yeah.
Who isn't like an Academy Award winning guy who's not in my reach, who's a contemporary, who also feels like his best work has yet to be done. And like I just realized even this time of quarantine, I was like, look, we should be talking again because we never know. Like maybe we'll come up with a concept where I can get me and one friend, we get tested, we don't have COVID, and then we can go film something at like a house that we already, that's free. Like anything just to create something. And I'm such a firm believer that, and I say this a lot, that limitations are good for artists. We hate them. We hate having time constraints, money constraints, like wrenches thrown into the system. But like, the wisdom part of my brain goes, yeah, but think of what you can pull out, and that's when we create stuff that's really special, that has that feeling of like, wow, they got together and handcrafted this thing with a lot of love, and I can feel it and it feels good. So like I'm desperate to do that, and I feel like if I keep that search, that hunger, that like push for it, then it's got to happen, right?
Yeah. Well, look at Halloween, the original Halloween. You had it was very tricky with what they were dealing with. They didn't have the budget, so they had to get creative. They had to, and it created one of the most iconic shots in horror, that whole opening sequence, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Jaws would not be iconic without its limitations.
Yeah.
If you could see that shark and it looked great all the time. Yeah, because that's
exactly.
like, I feel like that's the big secret that's out in the open with that kind of storytelling is it's what you don't see. Like, it's all about what you don't see that's scary. And so if you don't have to see it, you don't have to pay for it, which is great because you save budget. And if you don't see it, it's even scarier, right? Mm-hmm. Like the shark is scarier if you don't see it. Mike Myers is like scarier if he's not completely visible. And I think that's like such a tool that can be used if you're just creative enough to be like, okay, what are our limitations? How can we show it without breaking the bank and like ruining it? I think that's why like Signs was such one of my favorite sort of psychological sort of suspense movies, because it's all about like you don't see these aliens, and then like, because what happens when you see it, like when in the home video when he's like he walks by and you're like, ooh, that glimpse, you're like, oh my god, that's scary. And then of course it kind of comes tumbling down at the end when he's a CGI character and he's got his hand over the girl, and you're like, okay, perhaps this is where we needed to go, but it kind of breaks the spell. It breaks the spell.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Signs. I literally 2 nights ago just rewatched that for the first time since I was a kid, and I'm like, the tension really holds up, like that tension building, and then they just right at the end they kind of drop it a little bit. But yeah, the cornfield sequences and the video camera and like that's actually, I defend Signs. That's a solid tension film.
Yeah, or like it's the when Mel Gibson's in the bedroom and he turns and there's a dark figure standing on the roof.
Yeah,
and it's so dark, like it's actually so dark that you have to be watching it in the right setting, because like I had to rewind a couple times on my TV because like I knew it was there but I couldn't see it just because of like the blacks on the TV and then whatever like ambient light was around me. But it's those things, and I think also what makes that movie, and I'll defend that movie all day long, is because again it's a story about people before it's about anything else. It's a story about a family who's struggling with grief and loss, and a man who's struggling with his loss of faith, and you have Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, like,
killing it.
Those elements are incredible, and it's shot beautifully. And the production design has that sort of that weird feeling. That's what makes the heart of the movie. And then showing the alien, the actual budget, like the money shot, is like, man, I get it, but like everything else is what made me feel like something. So
right,
yeah.
And this is actually a decent transition to something that I wanted to ask you about, because I love giving the floor to shine the light on less loved films. I've discovered in a few interviews with you that you've gone on a record by saying your favorite guilty pleasure movie is Waterworld, and I wanted to kind of do a deep dive with that, no pun intended, and kind of give you the floor to kind of tell us what you think makes that movie a good watch.
You know, so Waterworld I actually haven't watched in a few years. It's one of the movies I haven't watched in a few years, but it's a childhood film for me. My brother and I like had owned it on VHS, and we would watch it all the time, not knowing like the disaster of like the legend of Waterworld and the disaster of it all. I think like for a kid at least, it's an adventure film that was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. This like basically this pirate who turns out to be part fish. This is before Shape of Water. I guess I have no like. Oh, and you have Dennis Hopper just going out of his goddamn mind. I mean, already alone, like that's We've got a movie. We got Dennis Hopper going crazy. We got a movie, baby. I'd have to rewatch it. I probably wouldn't like. I wouldn't stand up to the merits of like its overall maybe storytelling or like. But as a kid, I loved it and I thought it was so much fun. And then when I moved to LA, you guys have probably been to the Universal Studios. They have the Waterworld experience.
Yeah,
which is dope.
Which I will say like that's fantastic too. I mean, those people. I have like the little sea-doos that they go underwater with them and then launch out. There's explosions. Like the best part is you drive down the 101 going towards Universal, and if you don't know what's going on, they send those flares up into the sky and they go. And if you don't know it's Universal, it's pretty freaky. But so yeah, Waterworld's been a big part of my life, and Kevin Costner is definitely someone who I really look up to as an artist, who as an actor and a writer and a filmmaker. Maybe a little bit more Dances with Wolves than Waterworld, but yeah, as guilty pleasures. I haven't watched it in a long time though. But I love it.
They have their merits, you know. Like I saw the interview you did with Jimmy at Amoeba, and he was giving you crap about Waterworld. I'm like, I can't let this stand.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, we're gonna fix that. So
Yeah.
We also talked about Close Encounters. We also talked about Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is like technically it's a sci-fi film, but I think has suspense and some horror elements to it. Like that the little boy in that, when he goes outside and the doggy doors swinging back and forth and stuff. Like, and again, like for me, that's a movie that has such a tonal quality of feeling and is about people struggling with something. And what was interesting too is I saw an interview that Steven Spielberg said that had he made that kid after having children, because he didn't have kids when he made it, if he would have made it after having children, he wouldn't have had Richard Dreyfuss get on the ship. Which would have been like, he says now as a father, I wouldn't have done that. I would have realized what that meant, but like, I'm so glad he went on the ship. Like, it's a tale of obsession, and he was chosen to go, and he went. Anyway, I don't know how that was a tangent, but
No, I like it.
I'll talk Close Encounters any day.
Yeah.
Well, you know, so I know you have a little bit of. We only have a few minutes left, so I want to. On the phone, we talked about you have some horror stories, some ghost stories, and we love to finish off each show with a cool ghost story. I don't know if you got a chance to think of something, but we'd love to hear it.
I kept thinking. I guess like what I came to was I don't have one story. It's sort of like it's a place. And it was in Ohio, and this is something that I've thought about turning into some sort of narrative, some sort of film, like a single location horror film, and taking elements. I want to take elements from this farmhouse, and there's some other stories that close friends of mine have that I've always really loved, and that happened to them and are really scary. And if I put all of those into the same movie, then I can say inspired by true events, because technically they were all true. They just didn't happen at the same place or the same people. Anyway, so when I was a kid and out in rural Ohio, my grandma and grandpa had an old farmhouse. And I didn't experience it much when I was a kid, but like my first memory was in that house. And I was so young that I was still in a crib, which is like before you're supposed to have your first memory. Like I was really, really young, and they had this storage room that like I can still see, and there were just like random things. And my uncle had painted Ziggy, you know, the cartoon, the comic strip cartoon Ziggy. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Ziggy and his dog, and they were sitting on a hill looking up at the skies. I don't remember seeing any ghosts in that memory, but it's very possible that I did. But when my dad was growing up there, a lot of really, really weird things would happen. Like the walls would bleed this like red. It wasn't like blood, but they would stain. And they would always kind of have to paint over it. And then they would keep bleeding. They had a wine cellar that a baby would be heard crying in. And then they would go down there and there'd be no sound, but it'd be like they'd close it, and there'd be a baby that would cry down there. The legend went that one of the previous owners had hung himself in the stairwell. So they don't know if it was like something involved with that, but like my dad would sit on the couch watching TV, and the rocking chair in the corner of the room would start like this. And he said one time it just went full tilt. It was like, and then just stopped. And another time he was playing cards with his brothers in the kitchen, and in the next room, the radio, like one of those little like metal radios went. And they would go in and they would turn it off, go back to cards, and then and like they finally had to take the batteries out of the radio because it kept turning on. And my grandpa had these books of the occult. I don't know how he got them, because like he became really religious later in life. And he had these books on the occult, and when he burned them, everything stopped and went away.
Oh my gosh.
Funky.
Oh my
Right?
god.
Yikes.
Wow.
Like he just decided, like he had like found religion, and was like, I don't need these books anymore, burned them, and everything stopped.
Jeez.
Oh my god.
And like, yeah, it was like, and I have memories that my brother has memories of, I think maybe some weird stuff happening there too, but like, it's crazy. I was so young, and I remember like they had this, it wasn't exactly a spiral staircase as you would think of it. It wasn't like a metal one. It was like stairs that like went around like this, and then I would spend time alone upstairs sliding down on my belly. And as an adult, like storyteller, I'm like, what a scary scene in a movie to know this house is fucked up, and to have a kid who's just oblivious by himself, sliding on his stomach down the stairs, like la da 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 da, running back up, and then you see someone standing there, and he goes down again. Like, that's so the farmhouse is definitely like a part of my past that I want to explore more. My grandpa has since passed away, but my grandma's still around, and my uncles that grew up there with it, and I would love to see like what I don't know, because I'm sure there's stories that I don't know. Like my dad, they had like their hunting rifles up on the bed upstairs. They were like cleaning them. My dad was home alone, and he heard voices upstairs. And he knew the guns were out on the bed still because he hadn't finished cleaning them yet. And he like went upstairs and like saw shadows and heard voices. And then when he looked into the room, no one was in there.
Oh my god.
Like, oh my god, this house. Wow. Yeah, it was just like nonstop. And Matt, like this is on like a single 2-lane road out in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, and it's like on a bunch of land by itself. So it's like, I mean, it was ripe for having weird shit go down there.
Yeah.
Dude, you have a movie right
Yeah,
there.
I was gonna say, there's the seeds of a horror movie right there.
I know.
The
like
farmhouse.
Yeah.
Wow.
Farmhouse.
Well, dude,
Yeah.
I gotta say it's always a pleasure talking to you, and I would love.
You too.
I'm gonna put this out there when your movie comes out, and we can go places again. We're gonna get you.
Yeah.
We're gonna do this show, and we're gonna take
Okay.
you. We're gonna do it at a haunted house. We're gonna do it. Find a haunted location and do an
Yeah.
investigation.
Yes.
We'll bring you.
Let's do it.
Oh, it's
Okay.
gonna be a
I'll tell you,
blast.
and then I can tell all the behind the scenes stuff behind the practical effects while we're getting spooked.
Exactly. I
Perfect.
cannot wait. Well, Jake, you're a great guy. Thank you so much. And we didn't even get to talk about music, and you're a talented musician. We'll have to bring you back on. We just
Part
have
two.
to.
Come back and talk some music, man. That's my other passion. So, and then we'll do a food episode. We'll just
Oh my god, yeah. Oh yeah. So tell our audience, because you've got a lot going on. You've got a just let them know what you've got coming up and what you can see on Instagram. By the way, of course, Jake and Bake.
Yeah, Jake and Bake was my cooking show, my quarantine cooking show, and my favorite on Fridays was Jake and Shake, where I made cocktails and got drunk.
Nice.
I have to bring that. I'm surprised that I've stopped now for the last couple months, and I've been surprised how many people bring up Jake and Bake. I was like, I had to run to like the store last month or something, and even with my mask on, the Supernatural fan, this woman recognized me through my mask, and which was wild. And she even was like, "When's Jake and Bake coming back?" I was like, "Whoa, I've created a small empire here that I have not yet found a way to monetize."
Nice.
But what was great was Jake and Bake actually became a charity raise an event for my live episodes. When I would have guests come on, we would raise money for their causes. So actually I miss doing that because we raised way more than I ever thought we would. So that was wonderful. And as far as stuff is coming up, I've been lucky because there haven't been a lot of shows or movies in production. So I've transitioned into recording audiobooks somehow. So Stephanie Meyer, who wrote Twilight, she basically rewrote the first book of Twilight, but she's telling it through Edward's perspective. So the whole Twilight series is told through Bella's perspective, and she rewrote the first book through his perspective, which is wild if you're a fan of the books to see, like, because I read some of the first book, and then to see his perspective of everything, like events are different, and things like aren't what they seem. So I read all 650 odd pages of that book. I played every character in the book. They had me speaking like the French accent. I spoke Spanish. Like they didn't even ask if I could do it. They just trusted me, and I did it. Like at one point, one of the Spanish parts, I said to my director, and I was like, "Hey, we should make sure that I said those right." And he was like, "Oh, I thought you spoke Spanish. That sounded so good." And I was like, "I'm a really good actor, baby. I'm a good liar. We should double check it."
And that's full circle because
so
you were in one
yeah.
of her movies, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but they made me audition for it. I need to put that out there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very, very close to them, but they still had me go on tape and read a few things and send it to the publisher, and I very much had to audition for it because I'd never done anything like that before. But yeah, that worked out. And then like I really got close to the director and engineer who did that book, and I happened to pass by the recording studio, like last week on Monday, and was like, "Hey man, just drove by Outlaw. Hope you're well." And he was like, "Hey, are you available? Are you in town? Are you still in town? Like at the end of the week? I'm producing another book. Do you want to come do like one of the characters?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm in town. I'll come over." And so we like in 2 hours, I played this like 19-year-old serial killer in this book that's coming out in August called None Shall Sleep. And it's about like this. It's about this girl who escaped a serial killer as a teenager, and now the FBI has brought her in to hunt this other teenage serial killer. And she meets up with one who's already in jail, and it's very much this Clarice Hannibal Lecter relationship where she goes to him to like figure out who this person is. And it was really fun. And that comes out in August. It's called None Shall Sleep.
Oh,
that sounds
so. It was really, really cool and totally like happened within a matter of 48 hours and went and like recorded another book. Because it's perfect. It's perfect for quarantine. Because I just go into my booth and the director's in his separate room, and then we just talk through the microphones and the headphones, and I have it on my iPad, and we just go through and get it done. It's pretty amazing. It's really fun.
Oh, this sounds really cool.
That's awesome, dude. I'm proud of you, man. You deserve it.
Thanks.
You deserve it.
Well done.
Hey, man, you gotta survive.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And please, of course, look for Jake on what's your Twitter and all that stuff, so they know where to find you. I'm sure they already do.
It's at Mr. Jake Abel, Abel, and that's just Instagram and Twitter. I don't have Facebook or anything.
Yeah,
like that.
I don't blame you.
Good on you.
If I'm hitting you up for money on Facebook or something, it's not me. I'll send you my bank account if you want to send me money.
We'll put that in the show notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jake,
I'll give you my Venmo.
Thank you so much, dude. You're the man.
It's been a pleasure talking to
Thanks for having me.
It's been great.
Thanks
to meet
for having
you.
me, guys.
Thank you.
This is great. It's great to meet you too.
Pleasure, man.
Cheers.
Take care, guys.
Cheers, dude.
Have a good one.
See ya.
I'm having visions.
The body of Dr. Florence Weaver was found brutally murdered in her home this morning.
Did you know her? No, but I saw her die. I'm seeing things. I'm seeing murders as they're happening.
Hello?
He says his name is Gabriel. I think he's someone from my past.
Whatever happened to you before you joined our family hurt you in a way that I can't even imagine.
Stop saying that.
Maddie, who are you talking to?
Gabriel.
Is he your imaginary friend? Imaginary?
He's the devil.
Whatever it was.
It's back. He killed again. He's getting closer. He wants to talk to you. Mom, what do you know? He's coming for me. Who are you, Gabriel?